the adversity that any student may have faced in life, all in a bid to level the playing field of students that are applying to college. A student's adversity score, that's what it's called, it would take into account 15 factors, including the crime rate and the poverty levels from the student's high school and neighborhood. So any adversity score above a 50 is considered hardship, below is considered privilege. Okay, joining me right now, Fox Nation host Britt McHenry and campusreform.com contributor Emma Meshell. This is kind of a little crazy. I mean, like now you're scoring something, Britt, that, you know, is, I would imagine, in some ways kind of difficult to score. Adversity?
It's absurd. They're trying to combat class stratification like we saw with the Hollywood admissions scandal by creating more class stratification, right? And what's to stop someone, as we discussed off camera, from moving to a very nice home that's maybe on the line of where school district is, in an area that's gentrifying? Or, you know, what other factors do you consider? Sudden tragedy in a family member has cancer, a family member goes to war, like my father did when I was in high school. According to these adversity standards, you would not qualify. And I thought that this was what college admissions essays were supposed to be about. So now they're making it more difficult. And I think they're really clueless in America with our education system at the highest levels.
Emma, is that because colleges are lazy? Maybe they don't want to read all those essays. They don't want to take the time. They just want, you know, some score that tells them whether somebody's poor or not.
Well, the entire point of the SAT and even the ACT is to measure college readiness, so it's pretty concerning to me that they're now bringing in factors other than preparedness for college into this test specifically designed to measure that. And there are, like Britt said, essays where students can talk about these things if they want to. That's the important thing, is that students can choose to discuss adversity and how they've overcome it if they want to. Forcing them to submit certain demographic details, like where they grew up or the crime rate in their neighborhood, is an invasion of those students' privacy who may be trying to put that behind them, go to college and get a new lease on life by getting an education.
Well, and just real quick, and one of the items too that they want to include is anyone from a divorced home, a single parent home. Well, in 2018, the statistics are there that half of American families are divorced. So it's not as obscure of a statistic as it used to be. We all want families to stay together, but I don't think, as she mentioned, that should preclude you over another with better scores, better grades.
Well, is this all about the SAT trying to seem relevant? I mean, I think so many schools have increasingly gotten away from it. They're like, wait a second, this isn't measuring the whole thing. And by the way, I mean, it's true. Those exams are kind of geared to somebody who's had a certain kind of path in education, right? And you know, if you didn't have that socioeconomic background, maybe you're not going to score as well. So shouldn't they be working to actually maybe make their test a little bit different to measure intelligence and readiness as opposed to adversity? I'm going to take a stab at that.
Well, you can see why colleges would want people who have overcome difficult situations and gritty students who are going to apply themselves in college. But they do get the chance to address those things in other ways. Working it into a score that they actually don't even get to see is Orwellian. It's creepy, and I think it's really strange that schools are trying to bring...
Wait, you don't get to see it? I missed that part.
No,
you don't
the students,
get to see it?
The students don't get to see their own score.
Wait a second, so the college gets to see it, but the student doesn't get to see it.
Yep, you've got that right.
Everybody should just boycott the SAT. To heck with them, right? You should probably, I would assume they'd have you sign some kind of release, right, Britt? Maybe you just say, I'm not going to sign that. I'm not signing up for that. Thank you very much.
It's discriminatory, actually. So I don't understand how this is continuing on, but as usual, you know, it's only going to hurt, Trish, the middle class. White working middle class. There's been a book about it, Joan Williams, a professor, how it's so large now, we can't identify it. We want to diversify everything. And yes, opportunities are golden and we should create those, but not at the expense of others when you can't even see the score. It's absurd.
It's terrible. That's awful. All right, I want to get to another story while I have you guys here. One Ohio high school is no longer going to be recognizing a school valedictorian. Why? Because they think that it would help the students' mental health, the other students' mental health. And this is a direct quote. After a year-long study in focus groups, students, staff, and families, MHS officials made the announcement as part of an effort to improve students' mental wellness. Emma, so you can't compete academically anymore because somebody might feel bad?
Well, I watched the superintendent's interview on America's Newsroom, and I actually think there's something to what he's saying for this reason. It's on a community level. There is a local government, there is a local task force of concerned parents and adults who have said there's a mental health crisis in our community. They traced it to 40% of students that have an above 4.0 GPA at the school that are killing themselves because they can't become the valedictorian. And I think that's the important thing, is that this is not coming from the federal level. We're not taking away valedictorians at every
they're
school.
making a choice to do it. I hear you.
Yes. Yes.
But, you know, what's wrong with our society when those kids are so crazed about becoming valedictorian that the parents have to then say, okay, oh my gosh, we got a mental health crisis. I mean, something's kind of off, if you ask me, Britt.
I mean, if your breakdown is going to be over not making valedictorian, life is going to be really hard for you, okay? We're not doing these kids any favors. I think we can attribute a lot of the opioid crisis to over prescribing drugs for different mental health issues, which, look, I'm not making light of. It is serious. People have varying degrees of issues, but I think this is only coddling the children. And what happens to the schools outside the community? Okay, this community is doing that. Just because you change your GPA ranking up, move it to a 5.0, you still have the elitist
the rest
rankings.
of the world.
Yeah, you still have the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And they're still allowing magna, summa cum laude rankings as well.
Right.
So really, you're just robbing a rightful student of a moment. I was valedictorian and I loved it. You know, you're 18 years old, you get to speak to a class. You work hard for the advantages you get in life, and they're discouraging that, in my opinion.
Way to go. From a valedictorian.
I don't know what happened since, but
Britt and Emma, it's good to see you guys. Thank you so much. Coming up next, an Iranian businessman who